Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. And today I am going to be taking a look at an incredible album that came out in 1998 on Concord Records from five of the biggest and most important names in the history of music, and five musicians who, in my opinion, quite frankly, need no introduction whatsoever. I am talking about, of course, the one and only Gary Burton, Chick Corea, Pat Metheny, Dave Holland, and Roy Haynes. And this is their only album that they put out as a band, Like Minds. So, Like Minds is an album that was released under Gary Burton's name. And as I mentioned already, it's got five of the biggest and most important names in the history of music. So, of course, we've got Gary Burton on vibraphone, Pat Metheny on guitars, Chick Corea on piano, Dave Holland on bass, and Roy Haynes on drums. So, a true supergroup from five true legends, and the history between these five legends combined is absolutely incredible. Gary Burton and Chick Corea, of course, their association is legendary and goes all the way back to the early 70s, where they recorded and released a beautiful series of duet albums, from Duets to Native Sense, the new Duets, and of course the iconic Crystal Silence. Gary Burton and Pat Metheny, of course, their association is legendary. Pat Metheny was a young musician and a member of Gary Burton's band for a total of 3 years, from 1974 to 1977. And of course, Gary Burton and Pat Metheny have continued to collaborate and play with each other. Chick Corea and Dave Holland, of course, were members of the avant-garde group Circle, and their association goes all the way back to the late 60s, when they were members of the legendary Miles Davis band. Chick Corea and Roy Haynes made history when they recorded Chick Corea's iconic piano trio album, Now He Sings, Now He Sobs. And of course, Pat Metheny, Dave Holland, and Roy Haynes collaborated together on Pat Metheny's iconic trio album, Question and Answer. So there's a lot of history between these five musicians and a lot of excellent music between these five guys. And a lot of the compositions is kind of like a bit of everything from everyone. So we've got two compositions by Gary Burton, four compositions by Pat Metheny, and three compositions by Chick Corea. And we've got a standard by George Gershwin. So a little bit of everything on this album. And when you've got two of the most important composers in Pat Metheny and Chick Corea, you know you're going to get the absolute best. And, you know, when it comes to composing, Pat Metheny and Chick Corea, they're the masters. Gary Burton is more of a band leader than a composer, but his two contributions here are not to be sniffed at. They're absolutely incredible, but when it comes to composing, Pat Metheny and especially Chick Corea, they've got the edge on everyone. So, you know, you've got an iconic rhythm section, Dave Holland and Roy Haynes, and you've got three master soloists, Gary Burton, Pat Metheny, and Chick Corea. No weak link whatsoever, a true supergroup featuring five of the biggest names ever. So let's have a quick look, shall we? So there's the compositions. There's a bit of the backstory about how this project came together. A little bit more there. There's Corea and Metheny. And there's the five masters working their magic together. And a little bit more about how this project came together. And there's Haynes and Holland. There is Gary Burton himself. So this is more or less a Gary Burton album, but the others get top billing, which you have to really. You know, you've got names like Chick Corea and Pat Metheny. Got to give those guys top billing. And historically, this marked the first and only time in history that Pat Metheny and Chick Corea had ever recorded and made an album together in the studio. I mean, yes, they've played together on and off for many years live, but never actually recorded any music in the studio. So that's a real big deal for me. You know, two of my all-time favorite musicians, Pat Metheny and Chick Corea, making an album together doesn't get any better than that. And they work really, really well together. Considering that this was the only time they ever played in the studio, it's just magic. It really is. So we've got the opener, question and answer, which for me, you know, can't think of a better way to open an album with question and answer. And Chick Corea's piano playing really adds another voice to Pat Metheny's iconic composition. And of course, Gary Burton's vibraphone as well adds another colour to the music as well. So it's a real nice treat to actually hear Chick Corea playing a Pat Metheny composition. It's absolutely beautiful. Pat Metheny, Dave Holland, and Roy Haynes, of course, are no strangers to this composition. They were the ones who played this track originally on Pat Metheny's iconic album of the same name. And when you add two more musicians to the mix, it really makes it feel even more bigger than it is already. And it's just absolutely beautiful. We've got Elucidation by Pat Metheny, which is fast and absolutely beautiful. And we've got Chick Corea's iconic Windows, which is just absolutely legendary. Then we've got Futures, which is another great track as well. And we've got the title track, Like Minds, one of my favourite tracks from this album. Absolutely beautiful. And Gary Burton is on top form with some unbelievable solos on the vibraphone. And Pat Metheny, of course, he really rips it up on the guitar. And then we've got Country Roads, which is an old Gary Burton composition. Absolutely beautiful. It really captures the country feel of the name, Country Roads. Just absolutely lovely. Then we got Tears of Rain, which originally appeared on Pat Metheny's legendary album with Charlie Hayden, Beyond the Missouri Sky, which originally was played on a sitar, but here it gets more of an acoustic quintet treatment. And I love Chick Corea's piano work on this track. He really adds so much to the music, and you know, you've got Burton up there in the front line with Corea, just absolutely gorgeous stuff. Then we've got Soon by George Gershwin, absolutely lovely. For 1,000 Years by Pat Metheny, what more can you say? Just it's Pat Metheny, you know, it's absolutely amazing. Dave Holland and Roy Haynes, they just sound absolutely tight as a rhythm section. And then we've got Straight Up and Down by Chick Corea. What more can you say? Just absolutely a lovely track and a great way to close the album out. So Like Minds is a very laid back album, so there's no keyboards, there's no guitar synth, so it's not really what you would call a wild album. So there's nothing of the experimental stuff that half of these guys are more known for. It's a very lovely, almost very laid back, semi acoustic type of affair, but these guys are just on top form that you don't really miss all the wild stuff that much. You know, Chick Corea, as great as he is on keyboards, piano is where it's at for Chick. I think he's absolutely at his best on the instruments. Pat Metheny, he plays much more laid back as he has ever done. He's on top form as always. Dave Holland, rock solid on bass. Roy Haynes, what more can you say? One of the greatest drummers that ever lived. He just makes everything around him sound better, and he really elevates everyone in the band. And Gary Burton, what more can you say, really? One of the most important band leaders of all time. And what he's done here is exactly that. He's just assembled an all star cast of a who's who of music. And there's no actual leader on this album. Everyone takes the lead, everyone brings their contributions, and it's just magic from these five legendary names. But love this album, really showcases all five musicians at the top of their game. I would say probably the two standout musicians of this entire album, which goes without saying, is Pat Metheny and Chick Corea. Anytime you got those two in your band, you know you're going to get something very special. And the very fact that you've got Corea and Metheny together, well, you've got one of the greatest albums ever made. So standout tracks for me are Question and Answer, Like Minds, Tears of Rain, For a Thousand Years, and Straight Up and Straight Down, and Windows. But excellent album, really enjoyable, and a lot of history between these five names. And as I said, when you've got Burton, Corea, Metheny, Holland, and Haynes, you know it's going to be good. And it doesn't get any better than those five guys. And sadly, as we all know already, Chick Corea and Roy Haynes are sadly no longer with us. But that's what makes this album even more special. It was a one off, never to be repeated again. Five legends at the top of their game, truly captured lightning in a bottle and delivered something that will be listened to for many generations to come. So there you have it, Like Minds from Gary Burton, Chick Corea, Pat Metheny, Dave Holland, and Roy Haynes. Love this album, doesn't get any better than these five greats. Tremendous stuff. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite track from Like Minds? Is it Question and Answer, Elucidation, Windows, Futures, the title track, Like Minds, Country Roads, Tears of Rain, Soon, For a Thousand Years, or Straight Up and Down? Or did you enjoy the entire album from start to finish? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite tracks. You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. So until then, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.